All right, I guess I'm ready. Hi, everybody. This is Steph, the Educator, and this is the Essential Pedagogy Podcast. I want to start by talking to you guys about the word pedagogy. I was told by many people, educated people, they don't know what the word pedagogy is, but all educators do. The word pedagogy is the science and the practice of teaching. And so I was looking to trademark a name, and I started out with Essential Educator. And I got that from the pandemic because we were essential all of a sudden. And so that was not available. So I started with something that, or I ended up with something that is the actual word is used in education, but not a lot of people know about it. So I just wanted to define that for you guys and also to tell you about what I hope this podcast does in the atmosphere for everyone. I hope that it is, as a result of you listening to this podcast, that people from my profession and parents alike, and all others outside of the profession, grow in compassion for one another by getting a background picture or inside view of the complex structure of education. So that is my hope, that we all become more compassionate towards each other as a result of this podcast. So, without further ado, I want to introduce to you what we're going to be talking about today, which is education and children with divorced parents. Um, we all know that divorce is high. Actually, it is down. The percentage of divorce is down from last year, which is good, but it still is a high number, like 40 something percent of all people with divorce, and 60% with divorce if you marry at 18 and younger, which does not surprise me. So just want to put some statistics out there. But I think that children in education with divorced parents and how we conduct ourselves as adults really impact the education of our children. So, without further ado, I want to talk to Brandy Jones. Brandy and Jones and I worked together. Seemed like eons ago, huh? Oh, we used to have jam sessions after work just to kind of relieve stress.
Yes.
So Brandy is a mother of two, a daughter and a son. And if you don't mind me sharing, she is a divorced mom and co-parenting very healthily with her ex-husband of her two children. And so she's also a counselor in public schools here in North Texas. So, how long have you been a counselor, Randy? Because we taught together.
Yes, I've been a counselor for 9 years.
Wow, girl.
I know. Time has really flown.
Yes, my God.
Yeah.
Just wanted to talk to you, Brandy, about what you've seen in the schools with some children that may struggle and come see you to your office for various reasons, and some of the core problems might be divorce.
Okay.
Talk to me a little bit about that.
Okay, well, I've had quite a bit of experience with that. As you mentioned, the statistics of families that are divorced, as we know, it's very common. And as you mentioned, I myself, am divorced. But just some of my experiences, there have been some good, and there have been, some not so good. And so I can kind of, speak to both.
Mhm,
I'll start off, with the good. Sometimes we will have parents who have a great co-parenting relationship, and they're able to communicate well, and they will put the needs and what's best for the child first. And so they're able to like come to the school, and we can have meetings, and they're able just to work together to make the best decisions for their child.
mhm,
So in those type of situations, those are what we want to see.
mhm,
um, and that's very positive and promising. But then on the other hand, we do have some families where the co-parenting relationship between the parents is not so great. And so in those circumstances, what I see a lot as my role as being a school counselor is that it really has a great impact, a negative impact on the student. And so that's kind of where I come in, is when the parents are going through their thing of trying to work out, custody or other things, within that divorce. And it's affecting, that child. It's affecting their ability to be able to focus in school, to be able to just, maintain their emotions, and just overall to be successful. So that is where I come in, is just to be their support,
mhm.
and just kind of help them kind of walk through that as they are really going through that difficult time with their family.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I'm a lady that has been divorced for quite some time. But before, I would say that I don't even know if we got to a healthy co-parenting relationship. But what I will say is, being a teacher opened my eyes to some of the things that maybe I had some control over, with negative impact on my children's education and focus and things like that. So when I saw children in my classroom struggling, crying over some things, or just sharing stories, children will tell
Oh, yeah.
everything.
They definitely do.
Everything.
More than they should.
More than they should.
Yes.
And so don't think that, you threatening your child, saying that you whatever is in this house, stay in this house, that don't
Yes. Yeah, it
happen.
doesn't.
So I will share a story with the world, or whoever's listening. Um, there was a time when my ex-husband had gotten remarried, and we were both going to the like meet the teacher night for my son. And we weren't really getting along, we weren't really talking much. And I saw him and his wife, and we tried to have a good relationship, but it turned kind of ugly. So we were just kind of just existing in the same space. Well, my youngest son was in middle school at the time, and we were going from classroom to classroom. As you know, we follow the bell schedule so that we can meet each and every teacher that my son had. Previous to the visit to the school, I had a neighbor who reached out to me and said, "Hey, I know Avery's social studies teacher." And I said, "Oh, okay." So I just said my son's name on here, right? But it's okay. I just I know Avery's social studies teacher. And I was like, "Cool, great. What's her name?" And she gave me her name. And so she's like, "Yeah, she told me Avery's a good boy, yada, yada, yada." And I was like, "Good, he better be."
Yeah.
And so I was like looking forward to meeting this social studies teacher, because we had a mutual friend, you know. Um,
Mhm.
and we were following the bell schedule. And there were times where sometimes I would meet the teacher first, before my ex-husband and his wife. And there were times where, they would get to the classroom first. Well, at
Okay.
this time, we all were in the classroom and sitting down at the desk. And after the teacher gave her speech, I was approaching her, and my ex-husband's wife went to the woman and said, "Hi, my name is Mrs. Powell."
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
my name is Powell too.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not Mrs. anymore. And the lady was excited to meet me because she knew my neighbor. My neighbor said to look out for Stephanie Powell, and and she said, "Oh, hey, you must be so and so's neighbor, and it's so good to meet you." And my ex-husband's wife had no idea what she was talking about. So
Oh,
I just stood in front of her and I said, "I am Stephanie Powell.
mm-hmm.
This is Avery's stepmom."
Mm-hmm.
It was an awkward silence.
Yeah. I've
But
been through one of
I
those.
was like, "I am so and so's neighbor."
Mm-hmm.
And but I felt like at the time that since I was there and I was not on crack on the streets,
Mm-hmm.
um, that the step parent should have kind of stepped back and
Mm-hmm.
not been so eager to just put her hand out and say, "Hey," da, 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 just kind of step back
Mm-hmm.
and just wait a little while.
Yeah.
Kind of got embarrassed over the whole situation, which I was like, if you would have just kind of
Mm-hmm.
sat over there with your husband,
Right.
it
Right.
would have been all right.
Yeah.
It would have been all right. Now, I don't know how I could have handled that situation better. Maybe to like wait till everybody left and told the lady. But with the bell schedule, they give you a certain
Yeah.
amount of time to get to the next class.
Yeah. Limited time.
And
Yes.
it's just an irritant of me. I was like, why are you rushing up
Yeah.
to this lady, right?
Yeah.
But it was kind of ugly,
Mhm.
kind
Yeah.
of not pretty.
Mhm.
Um, but some of those not so pretty moments can build resiliency, I think, in children.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Um, I just don't think that we need to go to the toxic level that sometimes parents can go through. And
Mhm.
it's just really disheartening how sometimes that can happen.
Yes, yes. And what I would like to say to that, in those times when the relationship is not so great, just it's just better kind of parents can try to keep all that personal stuff, outside of the school. I find that I tend to they want to bring all the personal stuff, to the school. They want to, you have a meeting or something, a 504 meeting or something else, and they want to air all the dirty laundry stuff that's not even related, to what the meeting is about. And a lot of times that can be very embarrassing for the student, because I know I myself will be kind of feeling embarrassed, for the parents. They're like, oh, we just really didn't need to go there. Let's just
Yeah,
stick to what we need to talk about. So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I guess it could have been worse. It could have been where I was talking about, and she, and
Mhm.
all that. But
Yeah.
yeah, people don't really realize that those 504 meetings, those art meetings, which are the special education meetings,
Mhm.
those are recorded. Those are official, professional
Mhm.
settings where, other people can hear
Mhm.
these things, and it becomes part of the child's permanent record.
Mhm.
So you have to be really, really careful. Um, you know, um,
Mhm.
Sometimes things aren't communicated. Sometimes they are overly communicated. Like we don't need to know, you
Mhm.
know, um, somebody suing for child support, or
Right.
somebody is,
Or how long
not
you've been in
getting
the
child
company. So.
support because she should be working. I got
Mhm.
all kinds of information from children.
Mhm.
And sometimes things shouldn't be shared with children.
Mhm.
Like,
Absolutely.
your mom's not working and she should have a job.
Right.
Hide
Right.
that information from a child.
Yeah, or
Um,
even more personal, the child knowing that what parent may have been unfaithful, in the relationship.
yeah, that's a good
Yeah, and then they are sharing this, with their teachers and people at school. So,
yeah,
yeah, it
those are
can be very awkward.
very awkward.
Yes,
Um,
yeah.
and it does have a negative effect on the child.
Mhm.
They can't concentrate sometimes in school.
Mhm.
Parents don't realize how much the children worry about them. And
Mhm.
even though children are not responsible for
Right.
the adult is responsible for the child. It's we see that the children are deeply concerned about their parents.
Right. Right. It impacts them greatly.
Yeah, yeah,
Because when they are emotionally dysregulated, they really can't do anything, you know,
yeah,
and it's hard. It's
yeah,
very difficult. And my heart just goes out to them because, not only am I divorced as an adult, but I'm also a child of divorce. So, I went through it, as a kid. So I definitely get where the kids are coming from. I can put myself in their shoes, and relate. So,
yeah.
you know.
So tell me more about that. How was your experience in
Well,
school?
my experience with that, my parents divorced, and they divorced when I was 16 years old. But of course, up until I was 16, I remember, it was always just a lot of back and forth, disagreements, fighting, not getting along. Before I would say my mom finally, pulled the trigger on it and it's like, yes, I'm going to do this. You know how you kind of move out and coming back, move out, coming back. And so I just remember as a child, the thing that had me so nervous was when it was one of those down times when, me and my mom were moved out and not, in the home with my dad. And then I remember one day, like my dad showed up at the school, and I didn't know that he was going to pick me up. He's coming to get me. And then, of course, you know how your mother says, if your dad comes, don't go with him. So I said, and I see that quite often too, even now, like you put your child in this position to make a decision that they really cannot. So I remember as a child that had me feeling just so uncomfortable and so uneasy and just scared and kind of not knowing what to do. Because
Mhm.
dad's here to pick me up, but mom said, if he comes, do not go with him. But how can I say no to my dad and then I'm not coming with you? So
Yeah.
it's tough. It's
It
really
is tough. It's
tough. Mhm.
putting the child in the middle and putting the child in a place they shouldn't be in.
Right.
Is and I've done it. I've been guilty of that. I've been not guilty of that particular situation, but I've been guilty of I'm not talking to your daddy, so I need you to relay this to your daddy. I'm going to
Mhm.
text you. That
Huh?
is so inappropriate.
Yeah, yeah, I've done that as well. I've done it as well.
I'm not talking to him. I will
Yeah.
not text him. In fact, his name is
Mhm.
not saved.
Yep, yep, the name we do not mention, huh?
But it is so unhealthy, and
Yeah.
it's fascinating that we have such a cognitive dissonance between what we know we
Mhm.
shouldn't do and what is healthy. We know that is healthy, and what
Mhm.
we feel we're doing that is healthy,
Right.
um, and what really is healthy.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
true.
a lot of us get mixed up in our emotions, and
Mhm.
we're not doing the thing that is in the best interest of the child.
That is true. That is one of the hardest things to overcome. It's not letting those emotions take control, not letting those emotions rule. And that's something too that I work with students with because not only is it difficult for us as adults, we know that's what students struggle with as well. Of course, on a different scale with getting, angry or being sad and trying to handle that and express those correctly without letting those emotions take over.
Mhm.
Hmm.
What I find is that the kids are either acting out in anger, or they're forgetting something at a different parent's house
Hmm.
that they really need, right? And then they get
Yes.
upset about that. More often, it's a Chromebook or a iPad or whatever kind of digital device that we're using in the schools. Like I left it over
Mhm.
my dad's house,
Right.
can't go get it, and my mom
Yeah.
won't let me go back or something like that.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
um, and then but homework's due, and so
Mhm.
we got to deal with that. And then if
Mhm.
we count it late or something like that, then we're hearing backlash from parents sometimes. It's
Right. Yep.
not my
Right.
fault.
Yep.
You
Or
know
just
this.
yes. Or so just too with the child just trying to balance, like with the visitation, going from one home to the next and how the expectation and the structure is different. in each of the homes. And so with the child trying to navigate and to deal with that, a lot of times they get confused. They forget things. One home may be very laxed and not a lot of structure, and then the other home is. So
Mm-hmm.
that's also very difficult for the child.
So, Brandy, we have a question about thoughts on divorced couples hanging out with each other and the new spouse. What are your thoughts about that?
My thoughts on that is I would say if every of the adults can be adults and be mature and be amicable, I think that that is great. I think that that's the goal, that we strive to do, to be truly a blended family and to all co-parent together. I have seen that. I have seen that in some instances where both of the parents were, married and they got along very well. And I remember talking to, I call it bio mom and to bio dad, what concerns of the student. And then also like we're talking to stepmom. And I remember this particular stepmom came in and said, I am here, just strictly as, support. And they all, work together. So I think that's a beautiful thing when it can be done. And it
Yeah.
greatly benefits the child because it's just more support for that child.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree. Occasionally we see that. It doesn't happen as often as we'd like.
Right.
And, we all try to strive for amicable breakups. It doesn't always happen, but we can grow over time.
Absolutely.
Definitely grow. I
Yeah.
mean, I can stand to breathe the same air now.
hmm I understand that.
I can stand to
Yeah.
breathe the same air now. My children, or they're not children anymore.
Mhm.
My sons are 18 and 23. So um,
Okay.
we see each other occasionally with some, you know, um, events, but
Okay.
it's amicable. And as long as we're surface,
hmm
there to help. Just moved my son in to a college
Yes.
dorm.
Yep.
Together.
Done the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tag team
Mhm.
with dad. He kind of helped move some things in. He had to go to
Mhm.
work. And then the stepmom came later and we went to
Okay.
Sam's together and bought things.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
split
Yeah.
the bill and went on from there.
Well,
So we've
good.
gotten better over time. It
hmm
was really ugly before, but it can get better. I just
Yeah.
want people to know out there that even if there are some times where it is just not right now. It's not good now. You don't have a
hmm
good feeling now. It can get better. You have to
Absolutely.
work at it,
hmm
but it can get
Absolutely.
better.
Absolutely, I agree. And I can just say, for me personally, like I said, I'm divorced. I have two children. I have a 18-year-old son who also I just moved into college here just a couple of weeks ago, and then I also have a 9-year-old daughter that's in fourth grade, and so still doing a lot of co-parenting, there with my ex-husband and having to communicate with him, and just different things for the kids, and so we've had a lot of ups and downs through this process. But I'm thankful to God for the most part. It's been, ups. We communicate pretty well. And what we both try to do is keep the interests of the children first, above ourselves. And
Mhm.
so, we still try to get together in a sense and do, family type things. Like for instance, when my son just graduated from high school, we did a graduation trip for him.
I saw pictures of that.
Yes, for like his graduation present. And so my family came and my ex-husband came along too. And everybody I know. And that may seem kind of strange, maybe to some people, but like I said, we have matured, we have gotten over that the hurt and all the stuff from the past, and I do look at him as a friend and consider him a friend, and hopefully he does the same, for me. But hey, we do what we need to do for the children, and sometimes it is things that we do together.
Mhm.
So it
Now,
is works.
sometimes you just can't move past hurt without help. Talk
That's
about
true.
that.
That's true. And I would say for me, it took a lot of prayer. It did take, kind of going through some counseling as well, to evaluate the marriage, and the failure of the marriage, but also too for me to evaluate my part in that. And
Yeah.
so I had to kind of take ownership, of that, of my part in it, because to me it takes two. It's not
Mhm.
always just one sided. And it took forgiveness,
Yes.
to get over
Yes.
the hurt and things that I felt. And forgiveness is truly powerful. And
Yes.
I believe that was the key for helping us to be able to move forward the way we are.
Yes. I think realizing that I had to be forgiven as well as I need to give grace to
Hmm.
someone else to forgive was a big deal for me.
Hmm.
And having to remind myself of that
Hmm.
often and not forget, you know, is something that helped me get through
Okay.
some of the hurt and the pain and acting out, as you can act out. But once you have a forgiving heart and of yourself too, because once you start taking responsibility of your part,
Right.
you
Yeah.
can then you can move forward in
Hmm.
forgiving yourself and forgiving others.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes, good. Well, Brandy, thank you so much for being on the show.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Welcome. I'm looking forward to hearing from people. I hope you guys, put comments in. Please put comments in. Let me know if there's a topic that you want to hear about. I am working on getting a guest on here, a parent actually, that I worked with over the pandemic who had a dyslexic child or has a dyslexic child who I helped over the pandemic. And I got a bird's eye view of an up close actually a view of their parenting style, and it just helped me build more compassion to parents who are just struggling with education. So I can't wait. It's going to be sometime hopefully in October, but haven't nailed down a date, but I want you guys to tune in to that one. That's going to be a great show. um Hopefully, if not the next show, the very next one after that. But I appreciate the audience. I appreciate all the support, and I thank Brandy. She's just been such a rock for me over the years, and bouncing off ideas and talking about books that we read and just the thoughts in the world. So I really appreciate you coming to spend time with me today, and I can't wait to hear what great things you're going to be up to because you're such a go getter,
Oh,
and I admire you. I
oh,
really.
thank you. Thank you. I want to say thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be on the show. I know I was very nervous about it.
Oh,
I
you had nothing to say, and you had plenty.
know. Yes. But thank you. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you too. You're a great professional and a great mom, and I admire you. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Essential Pedagogy.